Shawna, how are you?
I'm good. Hang on. I gotta flick this on again. It was a little too long waiting.
No problem.
Here we
Sorry
are.
about that.
Hello.
What's going on?
You look like you're in some sort of a discotheque. Is that even a word?
Yeah, absolutely. Discotheque was a word back in the 70s.
So what is it now? Nightclub?
You know what? We in New York, we all go out to the lounge.
The lounge.
We go out to the lounge, right? We there's a lot of paint and sips up here in New York. So you can like have these
Yeah,
places,
yeah. You can paint and sip.
paint and sip. Yeah, that's
I
a big
mean,
thing.
what a name. It's actually what it says it is.
Exactly, exactly. Paint and sip and hookah lounges are pretty big right now.
Okay. Well, cool.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry about that. You know what? I didn't realize that I sent the link. I thought it was your link, and I'm looking at it like I'm waiting for the host to start the call, and I'm the host.
You're the host, baby cake.
I'm the host. I'm like,
Yeah.
where's she at? But I apologize for that.
No, I was ready and I was listening to your show. And I always like to listen just before I go on to kind of get a
Yeah,
feel for the energy and because I'm a little high energy.
yeah, I'm crazy. I'm cool, but I'm crazy.
Yeah, yeah, you're great. I loved it.
Thank you so much. So you have a very interesting story. And being that you listened to a little bit about the podcast, for our audience, tell us, of course, your name and just briefly what brought you to the point that you are in your life right now.
Only that.
Only that.
Yeah, only that. Well, I am Shawna Schuh and I live in the great state of Oregon and I live on 20 rural acres.
What?
So,
So
yeah.
wait. 20 acres. Wait, how big is a football field? How many
I'm a
acres?
lot bigger than a football field. I have a barn that's as big as a football field or bigger than a football field.
Are you
Um,
serious?
yeah, yeah, I'm serious. Somebody from New York, it's wide open spaces, right? So I love it actually. It clears my head and makes me happy. And I have animals, as you can probably see behind me.
Right.
And so what's your question was how did I get to that place? Yes.
Yes.
And I think based on listening to your great show,
Thank you.
where are we moving? What are we doing? How are we getting there? And do we have the confidence and motivation to do it? Right.
Right.
And I think it takes seeking. I think it takes a curious spirit and anybody can get that if they want it. So for me, I was raised in the country and I didn't want any part of it. I was like, oh, this is backwards. I'm not living here.
Right.
And I was a redhead, white pasty skin. I mean, my mother did everything she could to help me out, but I left at 18 and went on the road and traveled all over the United States and the Caribbean and Europe.
Right.
And I lived a lot on the East Coast too, because I actually think one of the things that I would recommend to any human is that they travel, especially internationally,
Got you.
and work in those places for a while, not
Okay.
tourist in these places,
Got you.
but work in these places because humans are so unique and so special and so fabulous, and they share some common things.
Okay.
We all want love. We all want to be better. We want to live the best life we really can.
Absolutely. So as far as you traveling, what were you doing at 18 that gave you the opportunity to be able to pretty much travel on your own and abroad?
Thank you. I was a entertainer. My dad, I took dancing lessons from the time I was, 5, ballet and jazz. And my mother really did that for me. And little girls used to be given dancing lessons all the time, right? Little
Right.
boys and little girls. And my mother was just trying to get me to be graceful. But the truth was I dug it. And then I knew I didn't want to live in Oregon. I didn't want to be restricted. And so I went on the road. I just looked for every opportunity I could. And so I worked as a professional entertainer. I sang backup, danced in shows. And they were all just legitimate kind of Tom Jonesy kind of, I don't even know what it would be now. A front man that was, the star, and we were the eye candy.
Yeah.
And then I took a tour of Europe and spent 8 months in Europe. What eye-opening ways to live. And yeah, it was fun. It was
Yeah.
crazy. It was
Yeah.
an adventure.
So you go on this tour and you're exploring more about life. When do you find a sense of self? Right? Because you come from Oregon and you're traveling to these different places and you're experiencing different things. But when do you feel like this is me?
God, what a great question. And I think if anybody's listening, when do we think this is me?
Mhm.
And is this the best me? And I would probably say never. I'm never at that place where I say I'm the best me yet.
Mhm.
I'm on my way to the best me. And certain times I'm remarkable or brilliant. But the rest of the time I'm ordinary and mundane, and I have to get up and do the stuff and pick up the dog poop and whatever I have to do.
Right.
But I think you get settled in finding something you're really good at.
Mhm.
And I think it's a quest. And I mean, let's face it, what if this is the whole point of your gig, is that living your best life, right? And if you're not on that quest to figure out what it is, what's your bits of magic? And I think I mean, even when I ask my coaching clients, what is it that you want? So many people don't know.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I mean, what do you want?
Well, I recently resigned from my job, in which I worked 13 years, 20 years in the industry, and I've never been happier. And do I have a solid plan? No, I don't. I have an idea of some things that I want to do, and I'm challenging myself to live. I'm challenging myself, and maybe you can help me with this, to unlearn being an employee and being sort of like a robot. You wake up at 5, you get up and exercise, you're outdoor by 7:30, you're at the desk, and you come back, you get something to eat, watch TV, do it all over again, and that's been
Yeah.
20 years, raising wife and kids and everything. And now you have the opportunity to be free in a sense to where I don't have to do that, but out of habit, how do I unlearn being that person?
Oh, it's a great question. I've been doing some work on this just recently with reading some things called the Master Key System. And if you a book that's really crazy great is Og Mandino's The Greatest Salesman in the World.
Okay.
And in it, they talk a lot about habits.
Mhm.
And your question is so profound because we don't realize we're in this habit that is destroying our life.
Right.
Because it's so ingrained. It becomes we're a slave
Right.
to this habit. And so the only way to replace that habit is with a new habit in its stead, is you
Right.
got that groove going.
Right.
So then what would you do if you're getting up and having the coffee and going, and what would you do instead in that same groove that then would support what you want?
Right.
And
Right.
the first thing would be to fill your head with something different than what you had been filling your head with.
Mhm.
And we as a society follow society, which I'm questioning whether or not that's your very best use of time.
Exactly. There's another book that I read that was called Atomic Habits by James Clear,
It's great.
right? And he talks about when you're habit stacking, right? And in order for you to change a habit, you want to add something small on top of an existing habit. But one of the key things that I took away from that book is that sometimes it's the change of environment that will help you change that habit. So mind you, even though I've left the job, the lifestyle that I've created in those habits with the blue lights and everything still exists. So
Yes.
it's me trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do different in this environment to put me in a different state of mind in order so that I can unlearn the habits that I've learned and create sort of like the new me.
Well, there's parts of it you're going to like and you don't want to change. Yes. I mean, the blue lights are cool. It's somebody said one time that whenever you travel or do anything different, like if you go and have an experience, that when you come home, change something in your environment, move the plant,
Okay.
rearrange some furniture,
Yep.
because you've changed, but your environment didn't. And so it sucks you back in.
Got you.
So an idea might be for you to change something in that environment, do an orange light. I'm not certain what it might be. Give it a go.
Right.
And I have found that to be true, that when I would travel, I would pick up a rock, or I would do something that I would bring back into my environment. But then you can only have so many rocks. The house starts to sink one side.
Right.
So what do you take away? And that's the other thing, that the more, when we're younger and starting, we're on a quest all the time. We're trying to accumulate things and figure stuff out. But the more you get to your true essence, in my heart and my mind, it's, I need very little. And so then you're taking stuff away. Like I'm giving stuff away. And boy, is that freeing. You just gave away your work, what you were doing. And now you've got this void that you get to put things in and try it on. How great is that?
Yeah. So part of the plan is to create each day sort of like a lab. I've had another coach that I work with, and they said, you know what, not thinking about work, what are things that you love to do? And each day you're going to put some time dedicated to each of those ideas in a lab. And for a year, you're just going to work on those things and see where you end up after a year. So I'm really excited and looking forward to that.
Nice.
Thank you. So as far as you coaching, when did you get into coaching, and what's your background, and what type of assessment tools do you use and things like that?
Good questions. Everything's an evolution for me. And one of the things I do for my clients is help them evolve. And so the pattern is not a pattern. Like, one of the reasons I think I'm as successful as I am as a coach is because I don't go through a process with my clients. Step one, you got to do this. We've got to do an assessment. Now we figure this out. I don't. I have so much knowledge and skill and tools that when I'm talking to somebody, they'll leak a belief, or they'll say something that alerts me of what mindset or what they've got going on in here. So then I can challenge and say, is that really how you want to be? And here's a tool that might help you with that to get out of it or to a new place that you want to be. And why it works so well is because it's them happening in the moment, instead of going to a class like all of us have done. And we learn, here's the best way to do appropriate listening skills, and here's the way to communicate. And until you need it, it's lost on you. And the brain works in these neural pathways that we're all, the minute we learn something new, the little neural pathways hook together and they're forming. And if you don't use it right away, they break apart. That's why when we learn a new software programmer, we learn new technology, and then we go to do it again and we're like, I don't remember any of it.
Right.
It's not because we're losing our minds. It's because we didn't reinforce the pathway. And that's why so many times when we go to learn something, even a book, like brilliant that you took something out of that book, but do you know how much was in it that you didn't take?
Exactly.
And so that's where like if you've ever had anybody say, you must read this book, but you're not in the same place they were. So you don't get out what they got out. And I think that's the way when I coach, or why I like it, is because I don't use any kind of a process. It absolutely has to do with what they need.
Gotcha. So I know that I'm going to have quite a few listeners who would like to make career changes. And the first thing that they're going to say is, well, I have to stay at this job because I have to support my family, and, I have obligations, but I really hate the job. What would you say to that person or that listener?
Whenever you want to do, you had actually mentioned it, stack something into the actual habit. Like, what do you love about it? When we focus on what we don't like about something, that's all we think about. There's I don't know what the analogy is or how the science works, but like if you've never seen a yellow cars, and then you're interested in buying a yellow car, and now you see yellow cars everywhere, right? Your awareness opened up. So if you're focused on what you don't like about your job, then you're going to be more and more unhappy. But if you were to say, what I do like about it is the paycheck, Okay. So I like the money part. And what I do like about it is a few people that what I do like about it is, and then you're getting closer and closer to what you do like, which will be the opportunity that opens the door for the next thing that you like.
Mhm, mhm,
So it's that way with everything. When we focus on what we do like, what is working, we get more of whatever we focus on.
got you. So I really want to hear more about the farm and everything else, or the land. But before we get to that question, um, you know, being that in New York in particular, or just around the United States or the world for that matter, there is this transition of going from, being in isolation to now going back and being in some sort of hybrid type of working environment. And there's several challenges in trying to manage people who have been given the freedom to work pretty much their own hours at home. And now you're trying to put them back in this particular constraint. So as a manager, what would you recommend to motivate a team who's coming back to the office, but they feel as if they don't want to be there?
So I guess the great question, and I would ask them a couple questions, because even in the isolation, especially if you can create something new, a hybrid, but they're proving that I think Microsoft did an entire study on it, that people are less creative working from home. One of the reasons is because you're in your own world, you're here inside your own environment, and you're not talking down the hall and saying, hey, I got this idea and I wanted to run it by you. And hey, why don't we bring this other group in? And we're having a small meeting. And there's that energy and that synergy that happens when you act, and when you actually get up and dress. I mean, I work from home, right? I only have to look good from my chest up if I'm on Zoom. And so if you look at the people, they prepare to meet other people, and there's a synergy that happens that they can't get from anything else. So what's the in between? Like, if I want your best creative self, then do you think you can do it in a isolated chamber? And a creative person would say sometimes, but not always. Well, then what could we do instead? Because forcing people to go to work is not the idea. Forcing people to stay home is what they did to us. And then being able to say, I trust that, I don't care if you work in your jammies or however you work, as
Right.
long as results are there. And I think that's what managers, leaders have got to start to focus on, is not where people are, but what results are they getting?
Okay.
And if I can't get the results alone, just sparking off other people. Look at you and I are actually on Zoom, even though this is a podcast, because we can see each other nodding. It's so much
Absolutely.
better than if we were just doing it over the phone, right?
Yep. Yep.
Imagine if we were in the same room, it'd be like, be fab.
Got you. So as far as managers staying with the drive, what would you recommend for them? Because this process is tiring. Like I know for me in the past 2 years, in order to keep the team motivated and to keep everybody on par, it took a lot of energy from me to feed that energy into, 6 other people. So what are some effective tools that you've provided to other leaders in order for them to get a better performance out of a team?
Well, first of all, when you ask that question, it's great. You have to ask, is it my responsibility to motivate someone else? And it probably isn't. Now, we think as a leader and as a manager that we need to be in there motivating. But if somebody doesn't have the motivation, they may be in the wrong spot.
Mhm.
So then it's asking, do you understand the end result of what we're working on here? I think most of us, a lot of us, go into work, and like you had mentioned at the beginning, it's you go in and you do your task and you're getting it done, and you're in the machine. And I think the new world of work is going to be, what are you contributing to the customer experience? What are you contributing to the end result of the software, whatever it is that you're creating? Because we're all creating something. And so if we understand the reason why, then we get more motivated.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's where we're missing it. These people are like, do your job, let me motivate you to do your job. The carrot, I'm going to dangle something in front of you. I'm a horsewoman, right? That they'll come towards the treat, but that will only work for so long. The stick, right? Whack, you got to do it. You got to do it versus, hey, we have a goal here. Figure out what that horse and you want to do. And then, boy, you're both focused on it. You don't need a carrot or a stick.
Gotcha. So tell me a little bit about being on it. Is it a farm or what do you call it exactly? Is it a
Well, it's
full-fledged
more like
farm?
a ranchette.
Like a ranchette? What is it like? Like, how does your day start? What's your routine? Do you tend to everything on the ranch yourself? Do you have a staff? Like, what does it look like?
All right. Well, and it's an interesting thing. I'm a executive woman. I go in, I wear my suit, I do work with the high level people, and then I own a horse and a pig and things like that. So the reason I love having animals and using animal analogies is because when we live with other species, we learn things that we can't learn just by hanging out with our own kind all the time. And animals really are blind to everything. I have right behind me, no one can see this, but this little pup I've got, I mean, he's three-legged and he doesn't know it. I mean, he does, he hops funny, but animals have a tendency to just accept and really deal with each other as part of the same herd or the same pack or the same, whatever you want to call it. So I love that I live on a farm because it gives me the kind of metaphors and analogies that many people cannot use. Mm-hmm. My routines are very similar to any successful person. I get up early, and I learned this from much research. And I've been doing something called a 5:15. It's an accountability call Monday through Friday. So I get up real early, but at 5:15, I lead a call of my coaching clients and other people who pay to be on the call. And it's Monday through Friday. It's a 15-minute call to keep people on task. I do it from the farm, and I have people from all over the nation, actually. And it really works. People can do it for themselves. But putting yourself with other like-minded people to kick off your morning is a really smart tactic.
So after the call, then what do you do? I want to learn about your day. Like, what is the day?
Yeah. I have a series of things I read on a daily basis about the subconscious, about what I want. I read my goals every morning because I want to have this burning desire to attain my next things in life. And one of the things I think sometimes we worry about is like, well, what if I attain everything I want? You're a human, you're going to want something else. You know what I mean? So I read my goals and I stretch every morning. I make myself a pot of tea. I go down to the barn and I clean a stall every morning, which is so good for my soul. Really? Being around a horse is good for your soul. And then I come up and normally I start coaching. I do it over the phone.
But explain like cleaning the stall, because not to sound weird, but like when I was a kid, we had a dog and he would poop all over the place and my mom would make me clean it up and I hated it.
Yeah, not good. Well, if you have animals, one of the reasons that it's so wonderful is that if you help them and train them to go where they go, then you don't have to clean up as much. Horses can be trained that way as well. And when I clean a stall, there's two things, especially even with my animals. If like my new pup is in a crate at night, he loves it, he's protected. And in the morning I scoop him up and we all go outside and we go to where dogs can go. Mm-hmm. And that way, then I don't have to have a mess that I clean up or things torn up. I just have to be aware. It's the same thing with all the humans around you as well. Awareness is key. Right. When I clean a stall, the horse can't do it for himself. So there's something glorious about that. I don't really like to clean up people's messes because they're able to clean up their own, but a horse cannot. Right. So I have a tendency to either listen to an audiobook or I'm thinking through maybe ideas or challenges I'm having, why I'm just shoveling that manure into a wheelbarrow, and the physicality of it, as well as using everything, and your senses are alive. When you go into a barn, I wrote an article about it recently, and it's like you hear the horses stomping and breathing and you feel it and you can smell the hay, and it's glorious.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about, you said that you have some analogies that you see with animals that you can relate to in life. Can you speak to some of those things?
Absolutely. I
the
have
thing,
2 TEDx talks about this actually.
mm,
And the most recent one though is this little 3-legged dog. I got him at the foster because the shelter because I foster dogs. I'm a volunteer. And this little guy was born all mangled. He couldn't walk. He was all mangled. And so they tried to help him and save him, but they couldn't. So they had to take the leg off. And he doesn't even know it. And so he's just adapted.
mhm,
And when you think about humans and how I don't know who it was. Somebody had said that there's a famous quote. I think it's Lawrence, D.H. Lawrence, that said, "I never saw a wild thing sorry for itself."
mm,
And when you look at the way other species just exist in the world, they don't put on airs. They just are who they are.
right,
And when we can borrow that and just accept each other, and animals they accept everything. They don't have a weather channel,
right,
to say, well, I
right,
should find out what the weather is. They just know if it comes out of the sky, they're going to accept it. And we are not accepting, usually humans.
right,
We want things more our way. And
right.
so it's good to have animals around to remind you that it is what it is.
So animals on the ranch and being in their space versus being around other animals, is there ever a time when you can't have two different types of animals around each other, or they pretty much just coexist with each other?
Look at nature. They all coexist. Now, animals kill other animals to eat. That's
Right.
the only reason they kill them. So a lion is going to run after a gazelle. Um, and the lion knows it and the gazelle knows it. There's no hate involved. It's just a meal for them. But they also live in the savannah together. And in the barn, you've got goats and horses and pigs, and they all figure it out. And that's the beauty of it.
Mhm, mhm.
Unless they are, and interestingly enough, there was a YouTube video where there was some sort of a place where you put animals, a retreat center, and they had a bear, a lion, a tiger, and a bear. And they were raised as babies together, and they were bestest of friends.
Wow, that's
So,
amazing.
I mean, mortal enemies can, and you see it all the time, dogs and cats, and they love each other. It's
Mhm.
when you put living things together, usually in the animal world, particularly, they adapt.
Got you. If you could leave the listeners with some words of encouragement to help them live their daily best, what would that be?
I think, great question. And I think if you actually ask yourself, Benjamin Franklin used to rate himself every day on the 13 virtues. If you look it up online, they're old, righteousness and chastity, a few things that we would alter. He asked himself if he was living this every single day. He rated himself in regards to this trait. So for you or for anyone, me, we were to say, I would like my best self would have the trait of honesty or the trait of diligence or discipline, whatever it is that you're working towards. And then at the end of the day, you would rate yourself. So then you're asking yourself, how do I live my best life today? Boy, your subconscious, you'll be given these answers. And then at the end of your day saying, did I live? Was I my best today? And if not, how can I be better tomorrow?
Incredible. Do you ever, when you talk about the subconscious mind, do you ever analyze your dreams?
I have kind of dabbled in that, but I'm not very good at it. So no.
Okay, 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 okay. Good enough.
I have them. I have a lot of dreams,
You have
but
a
I
lot of
don't
dreams.
analyze them.
Good deal. So if the listeners would like to follow up with you and your social media and everything, is there a particular page that you like for them to go to or website?
Actually, it's my own website. It's shawnaschuh.com. And my name is spelled SHAWNASCHUH. I'm sure it's going to be in your show notes.
Yes.
And on my website, they can sign up to get a free 30-minute session with me that I really just give. And I do it for 2 reasons. Number one, I can help people. I have skills. And number 2, it keeps my pulse on what's going on and what the problems are happening out in the marketplace. So they can take advantage of that. And I have a quiz and all kinds of free resources.
Yeah, I actually took the quiz. I'm still waiting for my results.
Oh, no, it should have come right up.
Yeah, because it was like Simplero or something like that was the website. It comes from
Simplero.
Simplero, yeah.
Well, we will get that fixed.
Okay. Okay. But thank you so much for spending some time with us. I
Oh, you're
definitely
great. And
appreciate
I
it.
wish you well. You're in
Thank
this
you.
great quest and you're going to
Thank
take
you.
everybody with you to figure
Yeah.
out what the next thing is.
Yeah. I'm excited about helping people just find themselves. Right.
It's a good quest.
That's what I'm on. It's sort of like there's always an option. That's the way I feel. You always have an option. You just have to be courageous enough to take it.
I agreed. Choices are abundant.
Choices are abundant.
If I
Listen,
can help you in any way, let me know. When it comes out, I'll put it on my social.
cool. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, bye.
Bye.